I mean,
Well,
the world is
internet. It's that
insane.
damn
Okay, in
internet.
about 5 seconds, we're just going to go
It's
live
spoiled
on
everything.
YouTube. Say hello to your viewers.
YouTube?
Live.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're on live on YouTube and Facebook.
Okay.
I've never. So we should finish at 1:58.
Yes.
No, we're starting at 1:58. Sorry.
Yeah, so we
That's
finished.
correct.
Not
I
like
was
last
with
time.
you and
Yeah.
kept yakking. I get a little distracted sometimes because I'm elderly and I should step down.
Oh, we were also just having a great chat. No, not at all. It's a very personal thing.
Well, we have to be careful what we say. Our viewers may be listening. And
I'm hopefully, I love that Anne sent us that heads up on Ellen retiring. I do want to mention that because that's a big deal.
The what?
Ellen, I want to retire. I want to talk about that.
And you got that information about Kamala. It was her sorority.
God, I just don't get sororities. I come from a country where there's no summer camp and no sororities.
Yeah.
These are the two most bizarre concepts to me.
How's the weather down there these days? I mean, we're frying here.
Winter, rainy, cold winter in Sydney. They can have it. I like a New York summer. I like it.
Oh, you like it like this?
I do. I like it, except for the smell of garbage.
Oh.
It's
And we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Humm.
And I'm Marin Johns.
Filling in for Anne, who should be back next week. And boy, do we have a lot of news.
Oh, gosh.
Trump is trying to run away from the frightening Project 2025 plan for his next administration, if he gets one, and hide his intentions in the GOP platform. But we're not going to let him get away with it. And
the issue of Trump's fitness to serve is up again. We've got 2 out members of Congress calling on him to step down.
We'll talk about that. The Republicans are putting so many extremist candidates up for the U.S. Senate in a tough year for Democrats to hold the Senate that they're giving some hope to holding it.
Yes, and Florida's Governor DeSantis has blamed, of course, the LGBTQ arts community for the backlash against his budget cuts.
He's such a small-minded individual. The killer of gay student Blaze Bernstein, convicted in Southern California 6 years after the slaying.
And we got terrible news about transgender homicides. The worst case, a 14-year-old trans girl has been brutally murdered in Pennsylvania.
2 U.S. male track stars have come out.
And the UK has voted for a more pro-LGBTQ Labour Party government.
Yep. And in France, the left and center parties cooperated to stop the fascists from controlling the National Assembly. This was a surprise to most people,
yes.
But it was a brilliant strategic move.
Yes.
We need one here.
Yes, to be discussed. We've got 10 same-sex couples in Hong Kong have been married online in defiance of Chinese government laws.
The Pope excommunicated an ultra-right anti-LGBTQ archbishop. Big step.
Big step. Another big step is the daughter of the president of Cameroon has come out on Instagram.
Right. So a lot of the, we're certainly going to talk about the presidential race and all that kind of stuff. But, this is the week that Donald Trump tried to act as if, I don't know anything about this Project 2025. It was written by his aides, his people, and the Heritage Foundation and all the people. It is a strict blueprint of fascism in America that has been written. It's out there for everybody to read. It's online. You can read it. And Trump is going to implement all of it if he gets to be president again.
Now, is this the same thing as Agenda 47?
No, Agenda 47 is actually what the Trump campaign has been putting up about the things that they're running on.
Right. pretty extreme
Agenda
anyway.
47, things like passing a bill that the United States only recognizes two genders, terminates gender affirming care at any age, lets
right.
doctors who help gender transitions be sued,
Mhm.
ends birthright citizenship, death penalty for drug dealers, cuts federal funding to schools that teach critical race theory or gender ideology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Walking away from NATO is another one that he will basically.
It goes on and on.
Yeah.
So that's what they're putting out there. Now, the people who are putting together the GOP the formal GOP platform, they're having their convention soon, right?
Mhm.
Oh, first of all, they wouldn't let reporters in the room while they were having the platform committee meeting that used to be televised on C-SPAN. They're so afraid of showing things.
Mhm.
So there's that. And then the platform, of course, took the traditional position against same-sex marriage and getting rid of abortion entirely.
Mhm.
So the New York Times runs a headline says, "Oh, he's softening his position."
No.
He's not softening anything.
No.
His judges, Clarence Thomas, all those people want to get rid of same-sex marriage. They want to get rid of all.
It's just sounding. There's very much an ominous tone is creeping into the campaign now. Trump said something about he hopes Biden doesn't step down because he said we planned on him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that sounds just creepy.
Well, there was even a rumor that he was going to throw the first debate so Biden would stay and then he could beat him. But, look, that we will talk about that story. But this Project 2025, which we've talked about often on this show, is horrendous.
Yeah.
And, his name is in it 312 times, and many of his ex-officials wrote it. So, he's fighting with the anti-abortionists because he didn't explicitly say we're going to get rid of all abortion. But what they did was they're putting in this clause that says, we back full implementation of the 14th Amendment, which they want to use to grant personhood to fetuses.
Well, yes.
And that would end abortion entirely across the nation.
This is one of Trump's absolute zingers. He said, there, of course, remains a vital role for the federal government in protecting unborn life. And it is very important. I mean, talk about, I thought the whole thing about Republican beliefs was less government intervention in everybody's lives.
Them days are over.
Yeah.
Them days are over. And look, we talk about the fact that abortion is going to be on the ballot in many, many states
as many as a dozen
this year. Well, we already have ballot initiatives in Florida where you need 60% of the vote out there.
Yes.
Colorado, New York,
Arizona,
Maryland, and South Dakota. And then, yes, they're trying to get it on in Arizona, Missouri, Montana, Arkansas, and Nebraska. Some of these states may be harder. Most of them require simple majorities, some higher. So now, of course, a lot of people who are going to vote for abortion rights, they're still going to vote Republican.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like it's going to, increase the Democratic vote, but it's going to certainly turn our people out. It's going to turn them out. All right, let's talk about Mr. Biden. How you feeling?
Well, I mean, I feel so torn. I feel like, I mean, I've said to you, I just wish we weren't in this place. That's my first, as an outsider looking in, is this all we've got? Like how did the Democratic Party get to this where we got no fresh blood, no new blood coming up? It shouldn't be like this. And then my second point, of course, is what the hell is wrong with Kamala Harris? She's the vice president for a reason. Why is everyone just saying, yeah, not her, not her, not her? I mean,
well, not everybody, and she polls a little better than Joe. But I mean, I think people are desperate for new blood. I don't know if that's going to solve the problem. I mean, we're all told we're supposed to shut up about this.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm going to vote for Biden if he's the candidate. It's not an issue. The question is, are the swing voters in the swing states going to? And the polls are saying no. And this week, out Congress members Angie Craig of Minnesota and Mark Takano of California, they're out. They joined the growing chorus of Democrats in the House calling on President Biden to get out of the race for president. Our own Jerry Nadler here in this district in New York did too, but when he was confronted about it coming out of the meeting with House members, he said, well, look, if he's the candidate, he's my candidate. I mean, of course.
Yes, and Nancy Pelosi this morning on Morning Joe did say that she wants the president to commit to a path, and whatever he decides, she will back it. But he already kind of has. He already kind of has said, "I'm not stepping down."
Yeah, he said it repeatedly.
Yeah.
But here we have two candidates who say, Trump and Biden, I'm the only one who can do this. I'm the only one who can do this. I'm the only one. That's insane. No one is indispensable, you know.
Yeah.
And everybody is replaceable. You know, again, I'm not saying getting a new nominee is a sure thing, but it is worth the risk. You know, Biden's win in 2020 was very narrow, and you can't afford to lose any votes. So that's the problem that we're up against. All right. And by the way, you know, last week we reported that the White House had pulled back on saying we don't approve of transgender surgeries for minors, right? And they got a lot of pushback.
They did. So Kelly Robinson at the HRC basically said, we want a statement that clarifies your position. Has it changed at all? And apparently it hasn't. I mean,
it doesn't clarify it for me. They say they've clarified it. The White House Director of Domestic Policy says their policy is unchanged, supporting gender-affirming care for minors in consultation with parents and physicians, opposing laws banning that, but writing also, gender-affirming surgeries are typically reserved for adults, and we believe they should be. Well,
well, Kelly Robinson basically seemed happy with that. She said, we appreciate that the administration has clarified that its position on healthcare for the transgender community has not changed, that it opposes any and all bans on access to care, and will continue to fight these bans in the courts and at the legislative level. The administration also reiterated what we know to be true. These types of personal healthcare decisions are best left to the families, the patient, and the medical provider, and no one else. So, but still, what does that mean if you have a transgender child and they want medical intervention?
Well, I mean, I don't
Where
think,
are we?
I mean, the Biden administration certainly supports, you know, hormones and other kinds of treatments and counseling and all these other kinds of care for trans youth. They're hesitant about surgeries. And again, the surgery thing, it's almost like it happens so, this is such a minuscule number of any kind of surgeries related to minors that it's almost not an issue, but the right wing likes to seize on that. And so that's why they came out with that position.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the United States Senate. This is a very tough year to hold on to the Senate. It was a very tough map for Democrats this year. But Republicans may once again be doing themselves in with extremist candidates. In Nevada, they put up Sam Brown up against Jackie Rosen. Brown is the president and chairman of the Nevada Faith and Freedom Coalition that opposed marriage equality and the Respect for Marriage Act passed by Congress that gives some protection for same-sex and interracial marriages from the Supreme Court because, you know, Clarence Thomas wants to get rid of these things, including it. Brown praised Don't Say Gay legislation is closely aligned with the anti-LGBTQ churches, and Rosen has been endorsed by HRC. And early polls show some of our most vulnerable Democrats doing okay. Tammy Baldwin, Wisconsin, Bob Casey, Pennsylvania, even Sherrod Brown in Ohio is doing okay. Ohio's become a pretty red state, but he's doing okay because he's a great guy. John Tester in Montana's in trouble. I mean, he's a wonderful candidate, but, you know, they don't look like they're going for him.
What chance does Brown have, do you think? Because what chance does Brown have in Nevada, do you think? Because Jackie Rosen's pretty popular. She's leading slightly in the polls right now.
Okay. And in Texas, Colin Allred is keeping it close with Ted Cruz. Now, I will be shocked if we hold on to the Senate. And, you know, we need to hold on to the Senate because even if Biden were to get elected or whoever the Democrats put up gets elected, if the Republicans control the Senate, that president is not going to be able to confirm any judges.
Right.
I mean, no less Supreme Court justices.
Right. And who's this Josh Hawley character?
Well, he's that awful senator from Missouri.
Christian nationalism.
Yep.
Yes. He said that this was, now what was this event he was speaking at? God,
the National Conservatism
Nat
Conference.
Confor.
I never heard of it, but all right.
Neither have I.
He called America a Christian nation.
It's terrible.
If only, if they actually followed some
it's terrible to
Christian
assume.
principles.
Right. How dare he assume that on behalf of how many people in this country?
Openly advocated Christian nationalism and said that our side, we want the religion of the pride flag. That's what our religion is. Do you even see a pride flag on our set? And he wants the religion of the Bible. Well, you should read that book sometime. There's a lot of funny stuff in it.
Yes.
And then some good news from Missouri. The judge ruled that Missouri's consumer protection law does not authorize the reactionary attorney general sweeping demands for unredacted records of those seeking gender-affirming care. It's a St. Louis Circuit Court judge, Joseph White. He said that the medical records that Andrew Bailey, awful guy, sought were protected under HIPAA, which is the medical, and that he wants unredacted records, and he's appealing that decision in his zeal to undermine care for trans youth. They hate them. They really hate them.
They do. They're using them though as a football.
Take us to Florida.
Oh, I studied the whole 1990s culture wars and the Jesse Helms stuff. And why would DeSantis want to go back there and start saying that, arts festivals are being dominated by, queer people, and therefore he doesn't know who to give funding to because he might be supporting the queer agenda. It's just incredible.
So he cut the entire $32 million out of the state budget for arts. There is no arts budget.
Left. Yeah.
Yep. What did somebody say? Cut the arts budget, and what you're left for culture is let's make a deal on TV, basically.
I just wish that the right would understand that culture wars don't work. That's my opinion.
I don't know. They're working in the states, and in the red states, they're doing them, and they're succeeding, and we're becoming a very divided country. The thing is, he got a lot of pushback on this cut from both Republicans and Democrats. They're saying, WTF, what are you doing? And he said, well, what about that Fringe Festival in Orlando? It's like a sexual festival where they're doing all this stuff. That was his quote, stuff. So as usually scapegoating LGBTQ Floridians to veto all the funding. Outstate Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith said, this doesn't happen in free states. Don't forget, DeSantis says this is the free state of Florida. And so
what about freedom of expression?
He also, this is another thing DeSantis did this week. He also ordered all references to climate change be removed from Florida textbooks, reversing 16 years of policy in the state's science studies. You can remove the vital information, Ron, but you can't stop the ocean from putting you underwater down there on the coastlines, which you have a lot of, you fool.
Look at the insurance rates in Florida. You think that they're living it down there.
Well, all right.
What's happening in Michigan?
Well, the legislature there banned the LGBTQ panic defense. That's when you've harmed or killed somebody, and you said, well, I did it because
they put their hand on my knee.
They were gay, or you went out with a hooker. Oh, it turned out to be trans, so I killed them.
So this is House Bill 4718, and did Governor Gretchen, did she sign this already?
It's on her desk. Okay. I can't imagine she wouldn't sign it. To say it explicitly, under the bill, the discovery, knowledge, or disclosure of a victim's real or perceived sex, gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation will no longer be admissible in state court. In a defendant's efforts to claim and prove reasonable provocation or reduced mental capacity. Now, it's true. People are so homophobic or transphobic that they do sometimes go off the deep end when they figure out, oh my God. But it could be true walking along the street. I've seen it. A straight guy be walking with his girlfriend and he sees two men holding hands and he goes, and he just gets disgusted and he wants to harm them. This is a sickness, but they're saying if you hit them for it, you don't have a defense.
Yeah. I tell you what, if every woman who had been traumatized by something non-consensual, actual or real,
Oh yeah,
acted on the impulse
Oh,
to
yeah.
kill, half of the male population would be dead.
absolutely,
I
absolutely.
mean, look at Aileen Wuornos. I mean, she's a good example of somebody who kills because they feel invaded or have been
Absolutely,
invaded.
absolutely. They don't
It's
think that true.
incredible.
All right. In Wyoming, Michigan, you got that? It's a town in Michigan. A Republican candidate for the Kent County Commission, he was charged with gross indecency between males for committing sex at the Buck Creek Nature Preserve. So here it is.
Yeah.
So he's cruising,
Yeah.
right? So what? And there's cops there, and who follow him into the woods. Now he was going to be doing something out of view, wasn't going to be hurting anybody, but the cops are like, they want to get these guys.
think
And
so.
this happens to be a Republican, and it's just disgraceful to put plainclothes cops on these things.
He was a uniformed officer.
Oh, was he?
He was a uniformed officer sitting in the car park, and he saw two men go into the woods, and he followed them.
Well, and again, for what? I can remember a judge, I think it was in the Northwest of the United States. He sort of queried, well, these guys were way off the beaten track and nobody's up there. What's the problem? I mean, so
what if, so you're feeling this is a kind of entrapment. It's a sting that you.
It's not entrapment. It's just like, if you have sex in the outdoors, if you do it in front of people, of course, that's an offense. Other people. But if you seclude yourself somewhere deep in the woods, I don't see.
So this law's gross indecency.
Yeah, and they face a maximum sentence of 5 years or a $2,500 fine, and I think it's a victimless crime. Again, unless you're doing something in front of people, in front of children, in front of anybody. I mean, you shouldn't impose yourself that way on anybody.
He's a Republican candidate. Would you change your view if it turned out that this guy was in the closet and had a conservative?
I'm defending him and saying he shouldn't be prosecuted. I'm talking about it because obviously Republicans and Democrats have libidos and do things like this. But
it's a pretty conservative part of the country, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, all right, we could go on and debate public sex, but I mean, again, my principle is don't do it. Don't scare the horses.
Sure.
All right. Okay. Let's talk about some of the violence that happened this week. In Sharon, Pennsylvania, shout out to Sue Kerr from Pittsburgh Lesbian, whose blog is consistently tracking these horrible deaths. This one was a real shocker because I think it's Sue notes in her blog that these trans murders are getting younger and younger. Paulie Likens, 14 years of age, brutally murdered in Western Pennsylvania, and they found her dismembered remains in a kind of parkland Golden
area.
Run wildlife area at the lake. Yeah.
It's really, really horrible. But I think they do have a suspect in custody, 29-year-old Deshaun Watkins. They think they might have met online via a dating app. But look, this is terrible. Sue does observe that the ages are getting younger.
There was it's because of all the anti-trans, bigotry that is being fomented by mostly the Republican Party and others, and Fox News almost every night. A candlelight vigil was held in her memory. It's set for July 13th in Sharon, organized by the Shenango Valley Pride Picnic and the LGBTQ plus Alliance support groups at 87 Stambaugh Avenue at 7 p.m. on July 13th.
Yes, and now we have another murder. A black trans woman was mortally shot and then run over. This happened shockingly in Atlanta. Shannon Boswell was 30, also went by the name Nellie, and there she is wearing a fabulous, you can't see it, but it's a Golden Girls t-shirt. There's B. Arthur peeking out. This is a bit of a mystery. Shannon had a boyfriend who is helping police try to work out what happened. Initially, they thought it was just a hit and run.
But and they didn't look at the fact that she was shot.
Yes, and turns out she was mortally wounded. I don't know what is happening down in Atlanta.
Well, they had a candlelight memorial for her in Wild Horse Creek Park on July the 6th. We talk about this almost every week on the program.
This is our 25th trans murder this year that we know of, and that figure is probably underestimated.
All right. Let's talk sports news.
Oh, all right. 2 track stars coming out.
Well, the first one we'll talk about is going to the Olympics.
Yes.
He's out gay. Nico Young, 21 years old. There he is in his race. He qualified after placing third in the men's 10,000 meter trials in Eugene, Oregon. He will be, get this, the first out gay male track and field athlete from the United States to compete in the Olympics. There were gay male athletes from the U.S. in the past, but they weren't out at the time, like Tom Waddell, a decathlete in 1968. He ended up founding the Gay Games. Nico Young's career has been on an upward trajectory since coming out to family and friends in 2021 and publicly in 2022. He won NCAA titles and setting records. I am living proof, he said, that it is not a choice.
He's only 21, right? Did we mention that?
Yeah.
Pretty young.
And then this other athlete, if you want to talk about.
Oh, yes. Trey. Now, he's a hurdler, Trey Cunningham. I'm always admiring hurdlers because it's like they thought I was going to be a track person, track and field when I was a little one because my legs were long. And I tell you what, I could get the first leg over the hurdle. I was ashamed about the second leg. So Trey Cunningham has come out as gay. He's a 5-time All-American hurdler at Florida State, and he's a silver medalist at the 2022 World Championships. 25 years of age. He just narrowly missed out on his first Olympic team, but he might get there next time. He said that his track coach at Florida State gave him some indispensable advice. He said, if you're not comfortable with who you are, you won't be able to fly. Pretty good advice. So that sort of pushed him to come out. He came out to family and friends in 2020, and they said, Trey, no surprise, you always liked the pink Power Ranger.
He said, I've grown up in a time when people just don't care about being gay anymore.
I'm glad he thinks that.
I'm just Trey, and apparently it's a special thing that I like to kiss guys. He said.
It's very cute, isn't it? It was very cute.
It's a very cute interview. So anyway, he did come out to family and friends starting in 2019, and now he's open to the whole world. And he's just 25, and he's from Alabama originally,
pretty neat.
And they made him Alabama Amateur Athlete of the Year in 2022. And he said when he came out to his parents, he said, I'm going to give, because it's a very conservative area, he said, I'm going to give them a grace period of 5 years. and that is something when you come out to your folks, because when you come out to your folks, you know, sometimes there's an initial upset.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just finding out about it and you've been living with it, for a long time. And, sometimes you do have to give them a little time to come around if they are having any problems. All right, and then take us to the Crowne Plaza in Dallas.
This one is a bit of a doozy. So I didn't know about Daddy Land, but it's a convention, or it's an annual circuit party where and if you know what daddies wear, they wear a lot of leather and chaps and jock straps and things. But anyway, talk about a culture clash. It so happened that for the second year in a row, the Crowne Plaza downtown Dallas was hosting this circuit party, but at the same time, they were also hosting the Alpha Kappa sorority biennial convention.
What is Alpha Kappa?
I'm not a sorority girl. I don't even understand any of these cultural.
But we know that the Vice President of the United States is a member.
Oh,
Kamala Harris.
This is her sorority. It's incredible to me because conventional wisdom would say that straight girls love gay guys parading around with their butts hanging out, but apparently not in downtown Dallas. So here's what happened: hundreds of daddies were given eviction notices from the owner of the hotel saying, "Sorry, it didn't work out."
The sorority complained. complained, and some of them started to leave and said, "We're not going to stay here with this happening in front
the
of
daddies
us."
were evicted,
So
and
it's a complicated story.
yeah,
Because the owner of the hotel said it wasn't a problem last year; it was fine. It's a problem this year. On the other hand, some other staff said the protocols had been followed. Attendees saw a double standard. There were women running around in bikinis
in the lobby,
in the lounge in the hotel. I mean, and as that's not a problem, but these guys, it's a problem.
I don't know.
think
It sounds like
that
the
can be-
owner just blew his stack for some reason. Terry Tagnazini, he said, "I'm not homophobic. My son's gay, and we had a fine time with these guys last year, but this year it was wrong."
Well,
who knows?
The plot thickens.
More will come out, perhaps.
All right. We have an awful lot of international
Okay,
news
go.
this week. Is that where we're moving to?
Well, you're always over in the UK, so bring us up to speed. What's happening?
Well, I mean, the victory of the Labour Party over the Conservatives, who have been in there for 14 years, was not unexpected at all. It was a blowout.
Yes.
Now, they only got 35% of the vote, but you win the seat if you were the first past the post. And they wiped them out because the Conservative vote was also split. They have a far right over there led by Nigel Farage, and they made advances. They won 13 seats. But the Labour Party, out of 650 seats, won 412 of them, I guess it was.
It's a landslide.
It was an absolute landslide.
Yeah.
Now, of course, so that party is now led by Keir Starmer there. There he is with his wife, who, by the way, they refer to her as coming from a Jewish family, but which is an advance in the United Kingdom. Starmer immediately picked Rachel Reeves to be the Chancellor of the Exchequer, which is the number 2 position. She'll be in charge of the economy. That's the first woman ever in the history to hold that post.
Absolutely.
So that's progress.
Yep.
His deputy prime minister is Angela Rayner, a strong supporter of LGBTQ rights, who shut down attacks on trans people during the campaign. She did have to apologize for calling her conservative colleagues a bunch of scum, homophobic, racist, misogynist, absolutely vile. Well, she was speaking the truth, but now that and there were tons of anti-LGBTQ Tories who were turned out, and as I said, there's a growing vote for Nigel Farage's far right party, but they only won 4 seats.
He's never been taken seriously before, and it's really a sort of a sign of the times that he's now seen as a viable candidate.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there.
Well, 2/3 of his voters oppose trans people being allowed to legally change genders. So then
tell us about this Wes Streeting character.
Yeah, there are a couple of gay MPs who are in the cabinet now, and that one is Wes Streeting. He was named the health secretary. He's one of Starmer's closest allies. It's concerning because he came out for putting trans patients in separate hospital wards, which is,
Is that the only segregation he's in favor of?
He also welcomed the controversial Hillary Cass report that recommended severely limiting gender-affirming care for minors. He will, but of course, his main monumental task is saving the National Health Service. Yeah. And here's the problem with Labour winning. They didn't campaign on much. They campaigned on being non-controversial, give us a chance. But if you're going to save the National Health Service, you're going to have to plow, billions of pounds into that service, or it's not going to be turned around. I'm concerned. And if you don't fix things, they'll just throw you out at the next election.
Yeah. We'll see how they go. They did win on really not being Sunak, and
exactly.
And that's
And the new foreign secretary, David Lammy, born of Guyanese immigrants, voted in favor of same-sex marriage. During the debate, he compared civil partnerships to separate but equal in the United States.
Yeah.
He once called Donald Trump a neo-Nazi sympathizing sociopath. Right on. And he notes that he is the first foreign secretary descended from the slave trade. And now there are now 57 out LGBTQ members of parliament out of 650. That's down from 67. and it's 8.6% of the parliament. There are 46 in Labour, 5 Liberal Democrats, 4 Conservatives, 1 Scottish National Party. They took a big hit in the election, and 1 from the Green Party. So, I mean, our friends over there in London, they're trying, in the United Kingdom, they try to hold Labour to its promises.
Yes.
Especially like end conversion therapy, which the Conservatives promised to do, but they never did.
Yeah, well, Starmer's got his work cut out for him. Now, what about in France? Because this, to me, has been a totally fascinating situation. When Macron called the snap elections, I think a lot of people thought he'd lost his mind. But I was curious because at that time, he'd sort of just come back from one of his islands in the South Pacific that had been completely in turmoil and riots. And I wonder whether or not that didn't just make him think, I cannot have my country go up in flames. I want to...
The trigger for it was the European Parliament elections, where the right wing made a lot of advances.
Huge advances. And, but it was a huge gamble. But look, he's done really well. And I think the LGBTQ angle for us is that the Prime Minister, who's out and gay, Gabriel Attal, offered his resignation. But why? Why was it his fault? He's so new in that role.
Well, it's not that it's his fault, but he's not.
Why did he feel the need to
his party, Macron's party, he's with Macron's party. Yes. They finished second. The left coalition finished first.
Yes.
And then the right wing party finished third. They were supposed to win.
Yes.
So, but here's how they did it. And this is what I mean about strategy, folks. And I wish we would be more strategic here in the United States. So what they did was, okay, they have a first round of voting, and a lot of the right-wing candidates are doing great. But in the second round, 3 candidates go on the ballot, not 2 in the runoffs. 3 candidates go on the ballot. So the left party and Macron's centrist party said, let's get together. We'll drop. If we came in third, we're dropping off. If you came in third, you're dropping off.
Yeah.
And that left people with a binary choice against the fascists.
Yeah.
And it worked spectacularly.
It worked.
And Marine Le Pen, who heads the right-wing party, was just, left eating crow. Now, Attal, didn't want this election, and he now may run for president, but it's not until 2026.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good luck with that. But Le Pen, though, is moving in her own little, she's getting her little patriots together. She's teaming up with Orban. Did you hear about this?
No.
So she's looking for right-wing.
Not surprising.
She's looking
Orban
for,
from Hungary.
well, she's going to get her revenge. Yes, she is. She's
What's she
looking
gonna
for
do?
right-wing allies all throughout the Union to make a kind of coalition.
Well,
so,
Italy has gone to the right. Netherlands has gone to the right.
Yeah.
But other countries are moving.
it's called something like Patriots of Europe or something like that.
Well, they never give up.
Yeah.
All right. And then Iran.
Yes. Masoud, let me get this right. Pezeshkian has won Iran's presidential vote. This is a former, or I believe he's a heart surgeon with a multi-ethnic background. About 50%, less than 50% of the country turned out to vote, but he won 53.6.
And he's the moderate in the race.
He's the moderate against,
for Iran.
Yes.
It's not like they're going to end the death penalty for homosexuality.
But he beat Saeed Jalili.
They keep saying like, oh, he's not going to enforce the wearing the scarf for the women, which is a controversy. No. He's for the scarf. He's just not for killing them if they don't wear it. And he said he's going to get rid of the morality police.
I hope so. He wants to be a voice of the voiceless. So let's hope he's just a little more moderate. He steers Iran out of this terrible...
Maybe forestalls World War III.
Oh, that would be nice. Goodness me.
Because that's what's brewing in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Madrid had their Pride on Sunday. It's considered the largest in Europe. So they had
very colourful. I have only been to Madrid for one Pride, and it was the big World Pride. And they put on a terrific party there. They really do. It's a perfect city for Pride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we told you in Norway, in Oslo, that terrible attack on a gay bar just before Pride 2 years ago. So this week, Zayar Matapor, an Iranian-born Norwegian citizen. He killed 2 men and injured dozens of others with gunshot wounds. He was sentenced The sentences are a little light there. It's like just 20 years in prison.
30? I thought it was 30. 30 years?
Maybe
30?
I think it's a minimum. At least it's a minimum of 20.
But it is, it's Scandinavia. They're humane.
Guilty of murder and terrorism.
Yes.
The 45-year-old has a history of mental illness. He can be held indefinitely if he is still a threat to public safety. He was also ordered to pay $10 million in compensation to the survivors and relatives of those he killed.
Terrible.
Well, I don't know where he's going to get $10 million
I don't know.
while he's sitting in prison, but that is the penalty there. Okay.
What's happening with the Pope? You are always up on the Pope, and you always understand what one of these people have been excommunicated. But why?
I mean, the Pope Francis excommunicated Italian Archbishop Carlo Vigano. We've talked about him quite a bit. He was the papal nuncio ambassador to the United States.
That's right.
There's pictures of him with Obama, and he was in large part responsible for why in the United States you have so many reactionary bishops here in this country.
Yeah.
The Pope's very aware of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, this guy was over the top.
Yeah.
He accused the Pope of covering up abusive seminarians by Cardinal McCarrick.
Yes.
Of
He wanted him
Washington,
to
DC.
he wanted Francis to resign over that.
He, by the way, that was a charge that Francis was cleared of.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, so the formal charge against him was heresy and schism
Heresy.
for, and this is a quote, promoting an inclusive, he accused Francis of promoting an inclusive, immigrationist, eco-sustainable, and gay-friendly church. What's wrong with that? He's also the guy who blindsided the Pope. We have a picture of this, of setting up the meeting between the Pope and Kentucky anti-gay clerk Kim Davis, who refused marriage licenses to gay couples and was sued and prosecuted
Do you
for
think
this.
Francis knows who she is?
Oh, he was set up. I mean,
He
Vigano
doesn't know
thought,
who she is, does he?
No, he didn't know who she
Google,
was.
who am I meeting with? He was probably told, she's in town, she's getting this important award,
and it's just so
bizarre.
he's been excommunicated for schism. All right, we need more of that. So, okay, let's go to Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Well, I heard this was lovely news. As you know, same-sex marriage is not legal in China, and of course not in Hong Kong because it's part of China now. So 10 couples said, "But we want to, be married. We want to feel what it's like." So they organised a kind of a mass wedding, 10 couples, and they engaged
Look how happy they are.
They look adorable, but they engaged a celebrant from Utah. And they met in a hotel in Kowloon.
Utah started doing remote weddings
Isn't that
during
wonderful?
the pandemic.
Yes.
And so now anybody in the world can
Dial a celebrant.
get a celebrant in Utah. I don't know how much you have to pay for it, but there you go, and you can get married. So they're taking advantage of that. Utah.
It's lovely. Look, it's a symbolic gesture. I hope they do get same-sex marriage one day, but I don't know. It's pretty.
Well, they exchange rings in front of family and friends. It's it's all part of the push for legal recognition in China.
Mm-hmm.
In Asia, we have marriage equality in Taiwan, Nepal, and soon to be Thailand if the monarch
It will happen.
says it's okay.
It will happen.
I think it will.
Yep.
All right, and
Well, Cameroon.
yeah, talk
This
about
is a
this.
very-
Talk about our lesbian sister in Cameroon.
This is very brave. Well, there's a clash of cultures, clash of privilege. Here we have the daughter of the president of Cameroon. Now, he's been in power since 1982. He's in his 90s, right? And she's been living abroad, splitting her time between the United States and Switzerland. So we were talking about a family with obviously some money and some prestige. So she's dating some incredibly gorgeous Brazilian supermodel. So she decides to come out on Instagram saying, basically, I want the whole world. I love you so much. I want the whole world to know about us.
I'm crazy about you,
I'm
she
crazy
said.
about you. But here's the thing. She didn't warn her family. She didn't really tell anybody she was going to do this. So her brother apparently rings her. He's furious. The president and the mother have asked her to delete the post, which I believe last time I checked she had not.
Good.
And she said, I want this to obviously change the laws in my country. But I sort of feel like, but you don't live there and you're kind of wealthy and you have status and privilege.
Well,
But, you know,
sometimes that's what it takes to speak out.
look, let's hope this, I don't know. So anyway, she's taken her girlfriend whose name is, I forget her name now. It's,
I have it down here. Her
yeah.
name is Brenda Baya.
no, that's not,
B-I-Y-A.
that's the Cameroonian's
Oh,
president's daughter, but I forget the name of the supermodel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Her name is Leon Valenza.
Leon Valenza. She's taken Leon to Cameroon a bunch of times. So I'd be curious about what their experiences have been, if they're getting any blowback there, if they're feeling endangered when they are on home soil.
Yes, but it's a great story.
It is against the law. I think it's punishable. Same-sex relationships are punishable 5 years in prison, something like that.
Yep. It's not good, and they're one of the countries considering more anti-gay laws.
And they do have a right-wing activist who wants her to be held to account. They want to prosecute her for coming out.
Well, I mean, she's not there though, right?
No.
So don't
Scary.
go back then.
Don't go back.
All right. Some HIV/AIDS news.
You've got it.
Well, so the Biden administration has appealed a 2023 jury decision that found that Gilead did not infringe on key government patents in its HIV prevention regime of Truvada and Descovy. The appeal filed by the Department of Justice and the HHS suit began in 2019 under the Trump administration, which said, hey, these drugs were developed by scientists at the CDC in the early 2000s. And Gilead refused to obtain a license for the use of patented regimens while continuing to profit from hundreds of millions of dollars of publicly funded research. This is a big issue in pharmaceutical and in drugs. You know, we develop the drugs and then you get all the profits.
Yes.
Stop it.
Stop it with the human guinea pigs.
So it's something that maybe they'll even continue if Trump gets back in there. Who knows? All right, we have a lot of entertainment news.
Some startling entertainment news. What do you want to go with first?
Well, I saw that they're making a movie. They're making a biopic about Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Using his
nephew as to star. It's called Michael. It's coming out via Lionsgate, and basically, I think this is a terrific angle. Why not cast Coleman Domingo as the Jackson patriarch, Joe Jackson, who was a famously controversial, some say violent character.
Well, if he can play, Mr. in The Color Purple, which was not the most positive role, he's a great actor.
Great. I think this is terrific.
So he's going to play Joe Jackson.
This will be hitting cinemas April 18th, 2025.
Coleman said, and he's been a guest on the show, he said it will tell the story of a very complicated person with Jackson's real life, as I said, this guy Jafar playing him.
Wow.
And this was the week that Merrily We Roll Along closed on Broadway. Well, you can't go on forever. I saw it off Broadway, and it was an absolutely wonderful show. It was the hit revival of the Stephen Sondheim musical. It raked in a fortune. It broke all box office records, and it won the Tony for Best Revival of a Musical and for Out Jonathan Groff and for Daniel Radcliffe. It was quite an emotional scene there on Broadway, and there's a 21-minute video of it, of them all talking after the show, and what's his name? Jonathan is crying through the whole thing. It's the director, Maria Friedman. She brought this show back to life. It was a total flop 43 years ago.
Yes,
I mean, a total flop. It was, and it ended the relationship between the Stephen Sondheim and Hal Prince, who always worked together on things. That was the last.
So what's changed? We've changed. Do you think?
No, I mean they have a totally different concept for the show.
Oh, there you go.
In 43 years ago, this show works on people backwards. It starts out when they're older, and it goes back to when they were like in college or earlier. So they cast people in their teens and 20s to play all the characters in the original production. And it didn't work out at all.
No.
It sounded like by the way, there was a wonderful documentary about that called The Best Worst Thing That Ever Happened to Me, because it was so exciting for these kids to get cast in a Hal Prince, Stephen Sondheim musical, and then it flopped like it was just terrible.
Wow.
So now they've figured it out. So we're going to post this in our email. So if you go to our website at gayusatv.org, you can see, sign up for our emails, and you'll get extras like this, like the link to that. Okay.
More theatre news. We've got two gay honorees, don't we, are going to be inducted into the Theatre Hall of Fame. That ceremony takes place on November the 18th at Broadway's Gershwin Theatre. So congratulations to Charles Busch and William Finn. Charles Busch is, I suppose, America's preeminent male actress, I call him. Not drag.
Vampire lesbians of Sodom.
Yeah, something really something that I learned from talking to Charles is this is not drag. He just as a gay man he said the best roles are always the actress's roles. Why not just write myself a great role?
I don't think a lot of women feel they have the best roles.
Well, the ones he admires, and he's so heavily influenced by the golden age of Hollywood with Joan Crawford and, Betty Davis and all of these women that had incredible women's picture, stature and strength. And they were his artistic influences. Katharine Hepburn. The other person is William Finn, who is a composer, of course, famous for falsettos.
And the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee from 2005. Also been now the other inductees are Elizabeth Ashley, though I don't know if I can forgive her for doing Windows back in 1979. She was the star of Windows. She played this obsessed lesbian who kept, it was called Windows because she peered from her window at this girl that she was obsessed with. And then, the girl would do something in her apartment across the river and she'd go, "Don't touch that." I mean, it was the whole thing. It was violent. We protested it. It was right after the movie Cruising, which we were very upset about with Al Pacino, and which was anti-gay, and then this movie was the anti-lesbian thing.
Oh, I think Elizabeth Ashley's never forgiven herself for getting involved with George Peppard. She's terrific.
She's a wonderful actress, but that was a bad move.
That was a bad move. And who else is it? We've got Donna Murphy in this gang of people, David Rabe, some really terrific people.
Boyd Gaines, Stephen McKinley Henderson, and the late producer Todd Haynes. The ceremony is, as you said, November 18th. It's the 53rd edition. And Charles, I haven't spoken to William, but Charles is absolutely thrilled about this.
Yes.
This thing.
Yes.
All right. Now, Disney World is staging a new version of The Little Mermaid, okay? And they've made it clear in the casting call, we welcome, or they didn't say welcome, but, we welcome auditions from trans people for the roles of Eric and Ariel.
Yes.
Now, they've also, in this casting call, said, specified the roles as white, which is off base. That's a little
odd, isn't it?
So it's sort of one step forward and two steps back, Disney World.
Yeah, it's a little odd. But what's good is both Eric and Ariel's characters are open to trans people. Ariel has to be able to sing and soprano and belt to C. And she has to be certain height, though. This is where a lot of trans women might get ruled out. She has to be between 5'2" and 5'6", and Eric has to be like 5'10" to 6 foot. There's all the very specific casting requirements. So let's hope some trans people sneak through those.
We shall see.
Requirements.
But they're open. All right. And then the star, have you seen The Heartbreak High?
No, but she's an Aussie, and it's an Aussie concept. I think this is a series down in Australia. So this lovely...
It's on Netflix.
She's got a surprise hit on Netflix. Lovely face, hasn't she? This is Aisha Maiden, who is actually Australian, 26 years of age, grew up in Sydney, studied down in a very good college down in Victoria, and she had her first kiss with a girl at age 11 when she was in her drama class, and she thought that was really cool. Anyway, she's come out, which is pretty terrific, as bisexual at the moment. Why is this unique? Because she's actually Parsi. She was raised in a ethnic cultural group. The religion is Zoroastrian, and that's an Iranian faith, but her parents are Indian. So congratulations, Aisha, for coming out.
She says, I'm not massive on queer culture, but she feels that just kissing girls is not enough. So she says her pride message is that there is no right or wrong way to be a queer person.
I agree with that, by the way. I do agree. And I hope she feels no pressure to be a certain way or another.
and progress in Japan.
If you call it progress, a bunch of gorgeous gay guys in a reality TV show all being forced to live together in a beach house and run a coffee truck, what could go wrong?
It's a new thing for Japan. And this is also on Netflix. It's on Netflix in 190 countries.
It's called The Boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
The Boyfriend.
9 men at a luxury beach resort outside Tokyo.
Seeing if they can find love.
But they also hope this will expose more Japanese people to gay love and gay, relationships. It's going to be very chaste. It's not going to be.
And they're very pretty. Have you seen them? They're
no,
very pretty.
I saw one picture and it was not very distinct, but you saw something better. But it's on now. It's called The Boyfriend.
What a lot of people don't realize about Japan is there's actually a very long-standing cultural tradition of seeing queer people in very glamorous guises. And the audience for this in Japan is very often young girls who find it they just love watching it. There's the whole theatre tradition of girls dressing up as boys, but again, impossibly glamorous, very dapper. And they have these legions of female fans who flock to see them. So there's certain different cultural forms. But we got some late breaking news before we came on here about Ellen DeGeneres has pretty much announced her retirement permanently from show business. Yes, we know her show ended in 2022 after I think it was 3,200 episodes and 60 Daytime Emmy Awards. But she said to fans who were watching her in her stand-up show, "I'm done." And they're like, "Are we going to see you in movies on Broadway?" She said,
"Is she
no.
entering a convent? She's still with
Retiring,
Portia?
Yeah, still
Portia
with Portia, still cooking their vegan meals and living in mansions. But look, she said, "I got kicked out of show business for being mean. I am many things, but I am not mean." So that's that. I think we'll see her again somehow, somewhere.
Yes, even Glenda Jackson came back after 20-something years in Parliament and played King Lear.
That's right. And so did Cher. Cher came back. Barbara Streisand always has farewell tours and then she's back. But look, her Netflix special is coming out. And after that, she said, this is it.
And nothing about what might happen next for her in her life. She's certainly entitled to some rest.
No, I've never met her. I've never interviewed her. All the years I was editing Curve magazine, she never accepted our request for interviews. So she didn't want to speak to us. So I don't know.
Well,
I don't want to say or judge.
Okay. Well, so here we are. We got a couple of minutes left here. Are we going to survive this year?
I mean, I'm a little nervous. I find it very, very distressing, especially for our community who has spent so many years fighting for things that could just disappear if we don't keep turning up and being vigilant.
What is disturbing, of course, obviously, people would say, well, you have your issues, we have our issues, but we wish for more of you. Your issue would be justice for all and respecting, whether you're from our families or from our friends group, that you would respect, our rights to exist and to be protected, our civil rights. Evan Wolfson was down, the guy who got marriage equality over the top in the courts. One of the people spoke before the platform committee, and what we're asking for is just basic equality, basic protection of our rights, et cetera. I mean, the Congress did protect our marriage rights, but even that can taken away in some of the states if the Supreme Court says that was a wrong decision to do that.
Well, that would affect me. I mean, I could be deported technically. I mean, they're looking at reviewing my green card was sort of connected to my marriage. Now, I don't know where I stand legally. If our marriage has become invalidated, what happens to my immigration status? I have no idea.
You live in New York.
I do.
Your marriage will not become invalidated. Let's be clear about this. The Respect for Marriage Act that the Congress passed says that the federal government will still respect those marriages. If they overturn the Obergefell decision, it'll be turned back to the states to decide whether they want to do it. And so if you don't live in a red state or a state that has a constitutional amendment against same-sex marriage, like California, California has it on the ballot this year to overturn that Proposition 8, which bans same-sex marriage in the Constitution. So you should be okay in New York.
I hope so. It's so anxiety producing, and I just think, what is the point of this? It creates absolute chaos. Look,
It's about holding power.
it
That's
is,
why
isn't
they
it?
do it.
But look at what's happening with Roe versus Wade. I mean, to see women again on the chopping block. I mean, cisgender women, gay
Awful.
women, transgender women.
Awful.
We are always the first to end up on the cutting board. It's just to be back there again is incredible to me.
Awful.
And we report about these transgender deaths. Forget about rights for transgender women. I mean, that if Trump is in, that's all just going to go by the wayside.
Well, I hate to end on that note, but we are just almost out of time.
We have to keep watching, and we have to
we'll
keep
be
fighting.
back next week.
Yes.
And thanks for watching.
Thank you.